For 62 years, Doctor Who has defied cancellation, conquered time, reinvented itself again and again, and yet somehow it had never once received a Primetime Emmy nomination. Until now, until 2025. Not for Best Drama, not for Best Actor, but for something even stranger. Because the Emmy nomination Doctor Who just received tells a very different story about the show's future. One far more cryptic. And once you understand what it truly means, what it reveals behind the scenes, you'll realize this isn't a triumph. It's a warning, a signal of what's happening between the BBC, Disney, and the future of Doctor Who, behind closed doors. Because yes, the BBC is celebrating. Yes, Disney's name is on the credit, but behind the cameras, the cast is vanishing, the scripts have stopped, and the BBC has gone silent. So why now, of all times, is Doctor Who being honored by the Emmys? And why does the nomination come from the most controversial episode of Ncuti Gatwa's short-lived run? This isn't about choreography. This isn't about musical numbers. This is about survival, and a global deal that might be on the verge of collapsing. On paper, this should be a moment of victory. An Emmy nod for a 62-year-old sci-fi show that was once seen as too British, too campy, too weird for American awards. And yet, here it is, nominated alongside shows like Bridgerton, A Toil, Will Trent, and even Severance, in the category of Outstanding Choreography for Scripted Programming. Yes, choreography. For a musical number titled, There's Always a Twist. Performed inside an episode titled The Devil's Chord. An episode inspired by the Beatles, filled with dance sequences, camp, time travel, and, above all, chaos. And it comes from the exact moment the Doctor Who revival started to wobble. Because The Devil's Chord wasn't just another mid-season musical. It was the moment Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor went from promising to polarizing. It was the moment many fans realized this season isn't building towards something. It's unraveling. From the over-the-top visuals to the jarring tonal shifts, The Devil's Chord divided audiences in ways the BBC didn't expect. Some praised it for its ambition. Others said it felt like a warning sign. But one thing was clear, the Doctor wasn't safe anymore. And now, that very episode is being honored at the Emmys. Why? Why that episode? Why now? Because hidden behind the headlines is a chilling reality. This nomination didn't come from the UK. It came from Disney's submission package. That's right, it wasn't the BBC that pushed Doctor Who into Emmy territory, it was Disney. The same Disney that now co-produces the show. The same Disney that made Doctor Who a Disney Sucks exclusive outside the UK. The same Disney that now controls the show's international distribution. And for months, the rumor mill has been spinning that Disney may walk away from the deal. That Billie Piper's regeneration twist was a Hail Mary to reignite interest. That the show's future, its actors, its showrunner, its very existence, hangs by a thread, but a single Emmy nomination, that changes the narrative. Because now, the Doctor Who brand can be reframed, not just as a beloved British sci-fi curiosity, but as a mainstream American awards contender. Even if the category is niche, even if the moment being honored is divisive, it sends a message to Disney executives. There's value here. There's cultural capital here. And if Doctor Who can break into the Emmys, maybe it's worth keeping around. Even if the creative team is in freefall. But that's not the whole story. Because the real twist. This is not the first time Doctor Who has flirted with awards. And every time it's happened, something was lost. Doctor Who has been here before. Not at the Emmys, but at the Saturns, the BAFTAs, the Hugo Awards, even the UK's National Television Awards, where David Tennant once reigned supreme. Each time, the recognition came with a price. A demand to make the show bigger, louder, more cinematic. Russell T Davies has admitted it himself, there's pressure now, not just to make Doctor Who for the UK, but to make it for the world. And this Emmy nomination, it proves Doctor Who is being reshaped, refitted and rebranded, not for the fans, but for the global stage. The Devil's Chord sequence is being held up as the new face of Doctor Who, not the lonely alien in the TARDIS, not the mysteries of Gallifrey, but a Broadway-style dance routine where time collapses to music. It's bold, it's different. But is it Doctor Who? Or is it Disney's Doctor Who? And here's where it gets stranger. Since the season finale, where Billie Piper regenerated as the new Doctor, the BBC has said nothing. No confirmation of a new season. No interviews with Piper. No updates on Ncuti Gatwa's exit. Just silence. Even as the Emmy nomination broke headlines, The BBC press office simply reposted it without comment. No celebratory quote from Russell T Davies. No appearance by the choreographer. No, thank you to the fans. Why? Because behind the scenes, the deal between the BBC and Disney is still in limbo. Disney's contract reportedly covered 3 specials and 1 season. The one we just saw. Anything beyond that is still under negotiation, and this Emmy nod is a final card on the table. A proof of value. A last-ditch pitch. A reason to keep the deal alive. But what if it doesn't work? What if Disney walks away? What if the BBC pulls the plug before Billie Piper ever takes flight as the 16th Doctor? Because as of now, she's not filming. She's not confirmed. She's not even acknowledged by the BBC as the Doctor. She's a cliffhanger. A loose thread. A question no one's willing to answer. And now the Emmys have entered the equation. But will it save the show? Or mark the beginning of the end? Because there's always a twist. And we haven't seen the last one yet. Let's go deeper. Because if this Emmy nomination was supposed to be a victory lap, a moment of celebration for Doctor Who's global success, then where's the BBC's celebration? Where's the press tour? Where's Billie Piper? Where is anyone? Because the truth is, this nomination didn't just come during a time of uncertainty. It came at a time of silence. Deafening silence. The kind of silence that happens when people are negotiating in secret. Or when something has gone terribly wrong, behind closed doors. And yet the Emmy campaign keeps moving forward. Without the Doctor. Without the showrunner. Without the audience even knowing what's happening next. Let's break it all down. Because the BBC's silence, it isn't an accident. It's a symptom. Let's start with the most obvious absence. Billie Piper, the first female Doctor since Jodie Whittaker, returned in a shocking twist during the finale of Empire of Death, regenerating from Ncuti Gatwa in a sequence that left fans stunned, thrilled, and utterly confused. For a moment, the internet exploded. Rose is back. She's the Doctor now. Is this the start of a new era? But within days, it was as if it never happened. No interviews. No photo shoots. No behind-the-scenes reveals. No announcements about her future. And here's where it gets even more bizarre. The official Doctor Who website doesn't list her as the new Doctor. No update to the Doctor's timeline. No biography. No merch. It's as if her regeneration was a dream. And according to insiders, that may not be far from the truth, because sources close to Bad Wolf Studios, the production company behind modern Doctor Who, say Billie Piper hasn't been seen on set since that one shoot. She isn't filming. There's no Series 15. There's no Christmas special. Nothing is in active production. And if there's no production, there may not be a show. Which raises the ultimate question. Was Billie Piper's regeneration real? Or was it a placeholder? A last-minute pivot? A visual metaphor? A narrative? Get-out-of-jail-free card? Used to disguise a deeper truth? That Doctor Who, as we know it, is now on pause. Here's where things get complicated. Because technically, Doctor Who is still owned by the BBC. But globally, it's distributed and co-produced by Disney. Which means any major decisions, casting, scripts, budgets, are no longer made in isolation. They're made in negotiation. And that's the real reason for the silence. Multiple sources report that the initial Disney-BBC deal was for 3 specials and 1 series. That part is done. Fulfilled. Now, it's time for both sides to decide whether to move forward. But things have changed. Viewer numbers were lower than expected. Fan response to the finale was mixed. And Billie Piper's twist left many wondering if the show had jumped the shark. Meanwhile, Disney is reviewing its entire streaming slate. Scaling back global spending. Cutting projects that don't deliver immediate return. And Doctor Who, it's expensive, it's complicated, and it's niche, even after the Disney push. So what does Disney do? They submit the Devil's Chord for an Emmy. Not as a celebration, but as a proof of value. If they can show that Doctor Who has awards potential, that it can be recognized by American institutions like the Emmys, then maybe, just maybe, it's worth keeping. But what if it doesn't win? What if the gamble fails? Then Disney walks. And the BBC is left with a half-regenerated show and no international partner. Here's what no one is talking about. The Emmy nomination didn't come from fan demand. It wasn't a viral movement. It didn't emerge organically. It was part of a carefully constructed for your consideration, AFYC, campaign launched by Disney's awards team. The same team that campaigns for The Mandalorian, Loki, and only murders in the building. But when you look closely at the FYC materials, one thing stands out: Russell T. Davies' name is missing. The man who revived Doctor Who not once but twice, in 2005 and in 2023, is not being promoted in this campaign. Instead, the spotlight is entirely on the choreographer, the dancer, the performance. Because this campaign isn't about the show. It's about the format, the aesthetics, the potential to break into musical fantasy prestige. It's Disney saying, look what Doctor Who could be. Not what it is, not what it was, but what it might become, under new direction. And that's the twist. Because if this campaign succeeds, if it captures attention, the next version of Doctor Who might not be a continuation. It might be a reinvention. Now, you might be wondering, has the BBC said anything at all? The answer is almost nothing, except one line, buried in a quiet press release, shortly after the Disney Emmy push. The BBC remains committed to Doctor Who as one of its flagship titles, and we look forward to exploring new global partnerships with our crucial international partners. Read that again. Not renewed, not returning, not filming soon, just committed and exploring. It's the language of delay, of uncertainty, of holding patterns. And in PR, those words mean only one thing: negotiations are ongoing, and nothing is locked in. Which means the Emmy nomination isn't a reward, it's a tactic, a conversation piece, a chess move in a much larger game. At this point, 3 futures are possible. Disney recommits, impressed by the Emmy nod, willing to invest in Billie Piper's Doctor, and greenlights a new season. Production resumes, RTD returns, and the story continues. Disney walks, citing cost, reception, and creative differences. The BBC is forced to find a new international partner. Rumors suggest Netflix, HBO Max, even ITV as contenders. Doctor Who is rebooted, not cancelled, but reformatted into a new structure. New Doctor, new canon, new timeline, possibly abandoning the Gatwa Piper era entirely. And the Emmy campaign determines which of those paths becomes reality. Because if Doctor Who wins its first ever Emmy, then even skeptics will be forced to pay attention. But if it loses, the silence will grow louder. The cast will remain missing, and the future of the TARDIS will hang in limbo. But wait, there's still one secret left. One thread everyone's missed. Because The Devil's Chord wasn't the only episode Disney submitted. There's another. A hidden entry in the Emmy records. An episode no one expected, featuring a character who may hold the key to Doctor Who's future. And if the rumors are true, then the next Doctor won't be Billie Piper. And the next showrunner won't be Russell T. Davies. They've already chosen a replacement,